this next story, ladies and gentlemen. It has been years since I have seen Chris Rock on SNL. It's also been years since I've watched SNL, but I heard that Chris Rock was on SNL and that I needed to watch it. And so I was like, okay, let me go check this out. So Chris Rock, during his SNL monologue, said some things. And in particular, he said some things about UnitedHealthcare CEO, former CEO Brian Thompson, and kind of the healthcare system as a whole. Let's get into it. And I'm going to tell you why this is important, because we do have new updates about what they are charging Luigi Maniotti with now. They have added on a new charge. So let's check this out. There it was, folks, just like that. Chris Rock stuns SNL viewers with pathetic joke about UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, Chris. They were not liking your jizzy joke. They didn't like the jokey joke, man. Okay. What did Chris Rock say? Because we can't play it on here. Sorry, guys, because of copyright. Comedian Chris Rock stunned viewers during his monologue for SNL when he made a crass jokes about the brutal assassination of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Oh, God, not crass. This is the joke. He actually killed a family, a man with kids. I have condolences for the healthcare CEO. This is a real person. But sometimes drug dealers get shot. You see The Wire, right? Chris Rock said Saturday night from Studio 8H. So basically, Chris Rock was calling him, kind of like a drug dealer, a pusher. And apparently that joke did not sit well with the media. I don't know, did not sit well. He went on to say, I really feel sorry for the family. I mean, everybody's fixated on how good looking this guy looks. If he looked like Jonah Hill, nobody would care. They would have already given him the chair and he'd be dead. Rock added, discussing accused shooter Luigi Mangione. So look at the look on Chris Rock's face, right? The look on his face. Oh my God. The quip swiftly drew backlash from viewers who were shocked by Rock's blunt delivery. So one person said this: I stopped watching after the sick joke about Brian Thompson. After feigning to offer condolences to the family of the murdered man, he made a joke about him being a drug dealer. That's coming from someone on X. So let me highlight this. Let's dive into this part. I stopped. Well, I guess it's not going to let me highlight. Anyway, I stopped watching after the sick joke about Brian Thompson. So, you've been watching SNL all this time? I don't know. Because like SNL for me for years has just not been funny. And I've tried. Like people are like, so-and-so is going to be on SNL tonight. Watch it. Okay, I'll watch it. Okay, it's not funny. Changing the channel. It's just like, yeah. And this brings up the fine line of comedy, right? Because people will say, oh no, that comedian went too far. And I remember, years back, I used to think this too, like, no, they shouldn't joke about that, but also you don't have to be there. I'm also kind of surprised that people are shocked that Chris Rock made a crass joke. It's Chris Rock. Have you never seen Chris Rock stand up? What did you think you were going to be in for? like, come on, get with it, folks. Get with it. So he is receiving a lot of backlash from people about that because he made jokes about Brian Thompson. And it was he lying? And that's just kind of how I look at it. Deborah said, maybe it was too soon. I don't know. What we say, too soon? It makes you wonder. But I also say this again. we all know, if you've watched Chris Rock's comedy, you know, like the type of comedy that he does. And I've seen his stand up. And so I don't know why people are shocked. So that's just my take on that. And also, I feel like the media, corporate media, is exaggerating the outrage a little bit, because they're taking posts from here and there on X and they're like, whoa, total backlash. But I think the initial backlash came from corporate media. And probably also the producers on SNL. Chris probably won't be invited back on SNL if we want to think about it. But that being said, why did Chris feel the need to say what he said? You know, Chris Rock is rich now, but remember, Chris Rock grew up poor. You think he never had to deal with the healthcare system? You think he never had to experience life without health insurance before, or inadequate health insurance? I'm pretty sure he remembers what that was like. And now you'll see, and I want to point this out because look at what they're doing now. This just happened today. Thank you, proud socialists. Luigi Mangione is being charged with first-degree murder and terrorism for allegedly influencing the policies of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion. But it's okay that for-profit insurance companies kill us for profit and bribe our government to prevent changing the system. And that's a really good point there from proud socialists. You know, it's okay that these health insurance companies are able to bribe our politicians, and therefore we don't get, not saying they have to take the money from them, they don't, but therefore that prevents us from getting healthcare for everybody in this country. That's okay. The terrorism charge is very concerning. And I say that because pay very close attention to who they are trying to say is a terrorist now. That word is just kind of thrown all around. And again, the point that I brought up with the Huru 3, it happened to them, but next thing you know, they could come for you. I think terrorism is a far stretch here with this case. And I will say again, I do not advocate anybody to go out and commit violence. Disclaimer, we got to do that. But I think the terrorism charge is a stretch. I think that they're trying to make an example out of Luigi Mangione. I think that what they are trying to do is they're trying to instill fear in everybody else, right? Like if you go after someone that's a CEO, and again, we're not advocating anything like that on the show, but if you were to go after someone that's a CEO, you could also be charged with like terrorism. You know what's interesting though? When poor people are killed, when you see unarmed people, unarmed Black men killed by the police, that's not an act of terror. When policemen in the city of Philadelphia bombed an entire apartment building where residents lived at, that wasn't considered terrorism. Who does terror apply to? That's a question that we need to ask. And the reason why people are so outraged, the reason why, again, people like Chris Rock said what he said is because we all know the healthcare system is fucked up in this country. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. I think you can go to the doctor and you can get a damn health bill and realize, oh, wait a minute, this is all the insurance company is paying. You've had to deal with it in one way, shape, or another, whether it's been you, a family member, or a friend. I think all of us at some point have had to experience this healthcare system and just how cruel it can be, especially if you don't have, you know, fancy insurance like, you know, TRICARE, for example, or if you don't have Medicare, or if you don't have insurance, or if you're poor. So people understand. People understand, like those who worked for UnitedHealthcare. If you haven't seen this interview with Jordan Sheraton and the former UnitedHealthcare employee, I highly recommend that you watch this interview. This interview is really good because it takes the mask off. It says exclusive, ex-UnitedHealthcare employee Jenny reveals employees complained about a quota system they were ordered to meet for denying patient claims. You guys need to hear this. They had a quota for you. They had a quota for your life.
I would hear people, you know, on break time or whatever, when we would all kind of come together in this kitchen clutch, and people would be talking about what they were told to do their job. It wasn't my job, so I can't say 100%. Yes, we have to deny so many claims per month to meet our shareholders' expectations, but I do know that people were complaining because, they had to meet a certain amount of claim denials.
So people were telling you that there was a quota for how many denials?
Yep.
Which is kind of like less deadly, but, cops towards the end of the month, you have a quota, how many tickets you have to give out.
Right. I wish.
Notice that she said to meet the shareholders' expectations. So even UnitedHealthcare has shareholders. Just like I told you, CNN has shareholders, ABC News, Fox News, MSNBC, ESPN. A lot of these companies have shareholders, and you need to look up Google and find out who the shareholders are. And then you'll find out who these people are actually really working for. BlackRock, Vanguard Group, State Street Group. They're usually in the top 3 of shareholders when you do your research. That's who they're really working for. These are not good companies. BlackRock is not good. Okay. I don't care what they try to tell you. Larry Fink is not good. BlackRock is not good. Vanguard Group is not good. State Street Corporation is not good. These are the top 3, again, shareholders that you will usually see that are invested in these companies. So UnitedHealthcare was denying a certain number of claims to satisfy their shareholders. They had a quota on your life, fam. Think about that for a second. Let's see how many people, they wanted to see how many people could they kill. There's no other way to put it. No other way to put it. Players want to play because that's what they want to do. UnitedHealthcare, they wanted to play. They wanted to play with your life. And that's supposed to be okay? We're just supposed to sit back and accept that in the system? If it's not UnitedHealthcare, if it's not Blue Cross, if it's not TRICARE, then you have to deal with other situations like Medicaid being removed, something that you had no control over. I want you to hear about what happened to children in this country, richest country in the world, being removed from Medicaid. Listen, this happened this year.
Millions of Americans, including children, have lost their health insurance after states started checking for eligibility again following the pandemic. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch reports on how many families are blaming paperwork errors that can take months to fix.
At first glance, Isabella Quintana looks like so many toddlers. But what you can't see are her health challenges.
What's it like to have a 16-month-old daughter with no health insurance coverage and a heart murmur?
A lot of things all the time, and it's hard for us because we're like always thinking when she's going to get sick,
Her father, Gorman, says Isabella should be covered by Medicaid, the government program ensuring low-income and disabled Americans. But over the summer, she lost coverage, even while her brother kept his due to what her parents believe is a paperwork issue. They say since then, a bronchitis follow-up appointment cost around $1,100 out of pocket, a big chunk of the roughly $35,000 the Colorado family makes a year, which is why another time the family tried to wait out a fever, hoping Isabella got better at home. She's
$1,100 for a visit. $1,100 for a visit. And we have people making $7.25 an hour in this country. In some of the swing states too, by the way, like Pennsylvania. $1,100 for a visit. No, it's not acceptable. No, it's not right. But it's happening. And it's been happening for years.
Far from alone. After the COVID public health emergency, the federal government required states to reevaluate every Medicaid recipient's eligibility. The process, called unwinding, caused more than 25 million people to lose Medicaid coverage.
Why isn't the Democratic Party talking about this? This happened this year under the Biden-Harris administration. Why isn't anybody talking about this? Why aren't all those people, 25 plus million people, lost Medicaid coverage? I told you guys. They kicked people off of Medicaid, just like they kicked people off of SNAP benefits. So first of all, like to qualify for Medicaid, you're already low income anyway. So imagine being low income and you have to pay $1,100 for a visit. That's just for the visits. But everybody sat back and told you everything's fine. Everyone sat back and told you the economy's fine. Everything's going great. You guys just need to message things better. How the hell do you message kicking all these people off of Medicaid? How do you message this? And you just want people to be happy because you reduced the price of some prescriptions. But even those prescriptions, you only reduce the prices for people over a certain age. So when people say that the Democratic Party needed to message more, there was no message to run. What are you talking about? What are you going to say? How often do they talk about this? Nobody talked about this on the campaign trail. Nobody. But here we are.
The majority for procedural reasons. As of August, more than 5 million fewer children were enrolled. And overall, it's not clear how many Americans who lost coverage were actually still eligible.
So in August, you started trying to get it restored. Yeah. And here we are in December.
Yeah, and nothing.
The exodus created a paperwork backlog. And while unwinding largely ended in the spring, kids like Isabella appear to still be facing the consequences.
It shouldn't take 4 months for that connect to happen.
No, it shouldn't. And if that happens, there's something wrong. Something has fallen through the cracks.
Kim Bimsteffer oversees Medicaid in Colorado, where unwinding sent safety net enrollment plummeting more than 30%. Over 550,000 people lost health insurance through the state's safety net programs, nearly 150,000 of them children.
Some individuals will fall through the cracks, and we are working really hard and have been working really hard to find them and get them reconnected.
But we cut child poverty in half. We cut child poverty in half. You see how people are leaving out this information? People are purposely misleading you guys because they want you to think that things are better than they are, and they're not. And you need to ask yourself, if people are leaving this information out, why are they not telling you about this? This is a case study QB clip. It's on Twitter. Almost everybody in independent media follows case study at some point, and we use case study clips. So like, why are people not telling you this? Why are they allowing you to think that things are better than they are? Because people who are doing that, they're no better than corporate media. I'm here to tell you. So we have to tell people the truth.
A third of Coloradans who lost Medicaid got their coverage restored. But Bimsteffer says the state's uninsured rate has gone up.
That's a problem.
Yes,
I mean, people are not finding private health insurance.
Yes, it is an absolute problem. Every American should have health insurance, right?
Bimsteffer says the state created a new way to escalate reviews and is expanding automation to make a dent in the backlog. But change is not coming fast enough. Every Child Pediatrics says the number of its uninsured patients is climbing, and even short gaps in coverage can be devastating, especially for children.
A lot of them are not getting their preventative care, their immunizations. They're falling behind on things like developmental screenings. We could miss an opportunity to intervene early and get kids speech therapy, occupational therapy, what they need to help achieve those milestones. And it really does change their developmental trajectory longer term. So it's a huge deal.
A huge deal for kids like Isabella, whose futures hang in the balance.
It's tough because you want them to be healthy right away, you know? You don't want to wait until something else happens.
Jesse Kirsch, NBC News, Denver.
Look at that little girl. This little girl. What did she do wrong? Nothing. She's a kid. She's a kid that lives in the wealthiest country in the world. There's so much greed and corruption, you know, and people want to tell you, and this is my thing. People want to tell you, you have to have the children, but then they don't want the children to be taken care of. And what is this? People need health care. People need it in this country. People need it all over the world. Meanwhile, on CNN, you have hosts like Michael Smirkonish, what is his name? Smirkonish? Michael Smirkonish, who is out here trying to make it seem like, you know, Brian Thompson is like some next great revolutionary. I can't make this up. Listen to this. This is crazy.
I slowed my gait as I passed a side entrance to the Hilton Hotel, realizing that this was the same day in the same early morning hour in the precise location where 1 week prior, a 50-year-old father of two was assassinated. But something was missing. Any sign whatsoever of the tragedy that occurred right here and which...
Oh, I think we have to miss this part. Hold on 1 second. We'll let him get past that part. Okay, there we go. We'll bring it back in.
Seeing the crime scene that's been shown many times in the media. There it is. But a week later, here's what was left. A lone piece of NYPD crime tape affixed to a barrier. No memorial of the kind that often appears spontaneously after a similar tragedy, like when John Lennon was murdered in New York City in 1980, or when 32-year-old Heather Heyer was run down in Charlottesville, Virginia, George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis.
So for some strange, bizarre reason, Smirkonish thought that it was a good idea to compare Brian Thompson to John Lennon, George Floyd, and the young woman that was killed in Charlottesville. I'll pause. Do you see what he's doing? Do you see what the media is doing? They're trying to, because they know the backlash that's coming towards the CEOs and the healthcare system. So they're trying to pump up Brian Thompson and put him on the same level as John Lennon, George Floyd, and the young woman that was killed in Charlottesville. How is this on the same level? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And this is no shade to Brian's family. Brian's family has no control over, this or what happened, etc. But I don't think we should be putting Brian Thompson on the same level. People love John Lennon. Are you kidding me? People love John Lennon. People love the Beatles. They loved him. Stop. John Lennon wanted peace. You think John Lennon would have been okay with what's happening? You think John Lennon would be like, yeah, well, people should just have to pay for healthcare? No. Stop. It's a mess. George Floyd was killed by a police officer who had his knee on his neck. What are you doing? Meanwhile, Brian Thompson was the CEO of a healthcare company that was notoriously known for denying claims, that had quotas on people's lives. Why are you doing this? Anything to get you to feel bad. They really trying to move people over to Brian Thompson's side. You can see it in his eyes. Look at Smirkonish's eyes. Look at his eyes. You can see it. They're really trying to get you and bring you over.
The spot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber were shot and killed by Kyle Rittenhouse. Crowds grieve the loss of Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who was fatally shot on the set of the film Rust. The University of Georgia held a vigil for Laken Riley, a nursing student who was killed by a migrant near campus. And when Donald Trump returned to the site of his first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, supporters appropriately honored Corey Comparatore's life and service by placing his firefighter's uniform in the stands. But there was no sign of any makeshift memorial on 54th Street.
Why would there be? Why would there be a sign? Why would there be a memorial for Brian Thompson? You want a memorial? Michael, you want one? You go make one, Kay. You go make one yourself. Why would there be? Are you kidding me? After everything that you guys have heard about this company, how they denied people healthcare over and over, Michael wants you to go out and have a memorial for Brian Thompson. This guy who sat up there, Brian Thompson, again, don't forget, he was under investigation and he was trying to move the needle to move forward towards AI to deny even more claims. And that's who Michael wants you to go out and make a visual for? What? No wonder their ratings are so low. No wonder people don't want to watch you.
Instead, a poster was taped outside the Hilton Hotel depicting the suspect as a saint with the words, "Free Luigi," a reference to the 26-year-old charged with second-degree murder.
They're saying free Luigi because, again, everybody gets it, Michael. Everybody gets it except for people like you, because you're sitting up in your studio and you're like you're another millionaire. You guys have great health insurance. You don't care about it. You don't want to hear about it. Terrible segment. I couldn't believe they even had the nerve. He was really trying to tug at the heartstrings, right? Let's make the comparison to George Floyd and John Lennon. It's a mess, ladies and gentlemen. It's a mess. But when you see and you understand, again, number one, I'm very concerned about the censorship. But number two, when you see and you understand why Chris Rock said what he did, Chris Rock was basically, again, comparing him to a drug pusher. And there are several people who saw this and said he was correct. I've watched numerous commentators day after day who have a lot of sympathy for Brian Thompson, who had no damn sympathy for any of the Palestinians that have been killed that they've talked about over and over. No sympathy whatsoever. You're talking about a genocide of a group of people, and they had no sympathy and sat there and advocated for the people who were killing them. But they want you to have sympathy for Brian Thompson. I am very much concerned about the terrorism charge that they threw at Luigi now too, because I feel like it's an intimidation tactic. I do feel like they're trying to scare other people, you know, and tell them think twice before you even consider anything. And again, you should not do that. But I really do think that's what this is really about. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.